than we got from both councils.
Yeah, I mean, my observation on that is, you know, okay, nearly $1 million for 15 events sounds like a big number, but it's not a big number really, is it? I mean, Damon Albarn doesn't get out of bed for less than $1 million. So why?
It's a dry hire, councillor. So all we are able to provide for the promoters is an acre of grass. There is no supporting infrastructure. So you're absolutely correct. If we were able to supply on-site power, if we were able to supply on-site foul water drainage, we would be able to charge a premium. But the rough cost of Waterworks, which is a three-day EDM festival, the cost to them of creating that show is about £1 million. They have to bring absolutely everything to site. And that's not ideal, councillor. I completely concede that, and we would love to be able to invest. Elizabeth is talking to the UK Innovation, help me out.
UKRI.
UK Research and Innovation, thank you, councillor. We're talking to them to try and see whether we can get investment from UKRI into a power supply into the park. If we can do that, all those generators, we don't breach it. And Chair, a number of councillors were asking what teeth you have. Under the licence regulatory system, if we breach the licence conditions, of which there are 91, then we could lose the licence. So there are consequences, and we must adhere. The proposal we bring here is calibrated to deal with financial challenges we face. We have not tried to over-engineer, and this is where I would, I'm afraid, counter the claims made earlier about Hyde Park. Hyde Park's top end is 75 dB, not 65. Our offer here is to go below the license that was granted by this council. So we're actually trying to compromise with local residents by running at a lower level of headline DBA and the lower level at DBC, which is the lower register. So we'll be running quieter than Hyde Park. We'll be running quieter, I would suggest, than Victoria Park. We are trying to make compromises. Picture in that, although we are responsible for the management and maintenance of the park and the delivery of the museum service for 2 boroughs, the 2 councils have reserved several of those listed buildings from our lease. So the reality is that the at-risk structures of the 2 stables and the small mansion actually are not within our management. They sit with the 2 councils. So a significant proportion of the at-risk buildings aren't mine to maintain. They were retained by the council with them. We do business with the largest entertainment company in the world, which is Live Nation via their subsidiary Festival Republic. Margins we make are ploughed back into the park. The CIC is a subsidiary of a charity. It can't make money. Everything gets ploughed back in. So the more, and I'm afraid, I know that people have said it's an over-commercialisation, Chair, but the more commercial we are, the more benefit I can produce for a park that is open to all the local residents. So it is a tough bargain that I have to strike annually. Introduces a significant risk. So we lost Waterworks this year because they could not get insurance against the risk of not getting that annual planning permission. So they left. We also lost another event through to a planning risk. What we're trying to do with the 5-year piece is to de-risk it both for us and for those promoters, and with that reduced risk, we think we can get a better deal out of them. But, Chair, I would stress, and I think officers spoke to this, the 5-year period is subject to much more scrutiny and control than if we were operating under PD rights. So we are trying to offer ourselves up for appropriate levels of scrutiny, because after all, we are stewards of a public park. This is not a private enterprise. I'm acutely aware of my responsibilities to the community, but we have to strike a bargain with commercial agencies and get the best margin we can. Complete cessation of local authority funding to try and becoming fully self-funding. If we go for 3, that transition becomes very, very unstable, because committed to doing the biodiversity net gain on site. You're probably aware other developers will buy off-site credits. It seemed, frankly, bonkers as I'm managing 185 acres of public green space. Answer, if I can just bring my planning consultant in, because the detail of ecology, we do have an ecologist on our team with us.
Residents weren't allowed another person to speak, so why is the applicant?
They are allowed to bring people to assist with questions.
No, we weren't.
This isn't another person to speak, sir. This is someone to answer specific questions.
We weren't advocating.
As museum, so we cannot close the museum on a regular basis in order to intensify the hire of that lovely building for weddings. So we try and balance that. We do have some commercial rents on site. We do get a rent from the cafe operator with an overage. So if their sales are above target, which we think they will be this year, we get an extra bump for that. We have a non-commercial rent with Capel Manor College. We get a commercial rent from the Crazy Golf, the pitch and putt operation that is next to this. We also, anybody who's been there, make a modest charge for car parking, and so we collect car parking revenues as well. One of the growth areas we'd want to look at, Chair, is to improve the rental stream, but to do that, it would mean those premises that I mentioned to Councillor Lambert that sit out with our lease being brought back into a rentable condition. So we would like to increase rents. They're less intrusive and they're much more regular, but at the moment it's a patchwork of commercial activity. I hope that's okay. Trackway is crossable, traversable at points, so it does not in any way change the use of the pitches. The soccer pitches are subject to a restricted covenant from the Football Foundation. So we are bound by a restricted covenant that the 2 councils entered into that is now applied to our lease that says I cannot take those pitches out of use, or I have to provide alternative football pitches within the park. It would be in breach of a restrictive covenant on our lease if we did that. So again, there would be consequences. So we certainly would not breach a covenant on our pool because it's about use by amateur teams. So during that period, what I'm saying is from September through to the mid-April, I would be in breach if I'm not allowing full access to those soccer pitches.
Okay, thank you. How would you ensure that you're coordinating with Brentford Stadium, Boston Manor Park, other, nearby public areas that have concerts,
The council's safety advisory group is effectively a clearinghouse where TfL, Met, Blue Light Services, the ambulance, fire brigade, et al. All attend that. They have sight of the borough's programme of events. So I can't commit at this point to say we won't programme something when Brentford have something.
Councillor Baring.
Thank you, Chair. You talked about you lost a couple of festivals.
Yep.
Which year was that?
This year.
This year. What was the loss in revenue from losing those?
The loss in revenue it's been calculated by my colleague here.
I'll take an
Forgive me.
approximate figure.
Thank you. 750k. Certainly had instances where we've asked the Met to intervene and the Met have said it's low level. We're not dealing with that. We've got something else to do. And that is not criticism of the Met. They're under-resourced public highway. But as a charity with a lease on a park, I do not have the...
So do you have any plans for the CCTV cameras or footages during the events or something?
Right. CCTV is employed throughout the arena, and it's also employed on egress. So most of the companies now use drones to ensure that they've got full visibility, etc. The issue that was raised earlier about CCTV on gates and the boundaries, and again, forgive us, Councillor, this is not me passing the buck, but under the complex arrangement that we have is the gates and the boundary walls and fences aren't mine. They're retained.
Festival Public each year do a litter pick prior to them coming on site.
We, again, and this is not me washing my hands of it, people behave in particular ways in the public realm that I, as an executive of a charity, do simply not have the power to deal with that. So we rely on a partnership with those events. To Gunnersbury, they run at 75. We've told them we can't do that. We refuse to do that. We've gone at 73. Moving below 73 erodes the competitive ability to actually get events in. Acts will not run lower than 73. We can't get the talent through the event promoters if we drop below that. Do not for one moment, councillors, deny that the sound from the park is audible in the streets surrounding. It is evidently so. I do not deny that. But what I've got to work within is a regulatory regime that says, the regulatory regime says that 75 was.
I guess you're saying the onus is on the council's licensing committee to change the range if residents wish to have a more peaceful life. I understand what you're saying.
Comment on that.
Yeah, no, but in terms of your vendors, it was suggested by another member of this committee that there's 7 out of your 100+ vendors that are from the borough. Is that an accurate figure?
I think, Councillor, what you're aiming at is about local procurement of services and vendors. The large events companies tend to do deals with the same people year in, year out because it's reliable. A significant amount of investment from the reason we go for national highways is because of the presence of the M4. There is a fund that national highways have to mitigate the impact of the major road network on nearby nature and heritage sites. So we are absolutely in the sweet spot for it. We just got to get the bid right. Because if we can get a bid from National Highway, the entrance on the eastern side near the crossover bridge that Guy mentioned, there is a gate there. But unfortunately, there's a whole load of telecom stuff under the ground. So again, the engineering would be significant.
On your budget, you know, I'm not sure how long a noise abatement order would last, but say it was 6 months, what would happen?
Councillor, I'm not really sure I can answer that, never having been subjected to it. I don't even know what the regulatory regime. So let's make a hypothesis. Are you saying that if we were banned from making sound at the licensed levels,
yeah,
then if we're not able to let the site and allow event promoters to run at the licensable level, it would effectively curtail the business.
Yeah, agreed. So my point to the wider board is our punitive measures, they're not, we will never enact them because you're a charity.
Chair, through the chair, I shouldn't really be saying this, but there are a number of punitive measures available to the council that would, for want of a better term, cause us to amend our behaviours that are less draconian than that. So, okay, as was saying, your planning colleagues can serve notices on us that we are required to comply with. The licensing regime can serve a notice on us of breach of licence, and you could call the licence in again. So there are teeth. It's just that you don't need to bite my head off with the first chomp.
Yeah,
that's all.
Okay, I get that. But if noise continues to prove a problem, and
it would be a licensing issue predominantly. The licensing regime is the more flexible of your regulatory regimes than planning, I would suggest. But again, Chair, forgive me, I'm probably straying into what officers should answer. So, okay, sorry.
I'll just